Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very interesting today's webinar, which is having the title The Three Hearts of Omnichannel, Customer, Content, Context, and how to make them work together, right? Really my glad pleasure to welcome Marie Mistral Fruit from V7. Hi, Marie, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine, and you?
Not bad, not bad. And of course your dog as well, because we saw that behind the scenes you're also having your dog together.
It's
as,
Ninusha.
as a support. We have Rorik Van Wely from BMS. Hi Rorik, how are you?
All good, Dario.
And Nuno Rodriguez from Roche from Lisbon. Nuno, how are you?
Fine, everything is okay. I hope to with all of you also.
Great. So let's kick off this interesting webinar as said. I believe that we have a lot to speak about the 3Cs, and we all know that there are many acronyms these days. Maybe the most famous one is, of course, the 4P coming from marketing. But if you ask me, the 3C currently is most probably the most crucial one when it comes to life science and pharma, because we still didn't unify that in the most proper way. And that's why the purpose of today's webinar is to speak a little bit more about these particular 3Cs. Now I would like to pass the stage to Marie, and she will actually set the stage with some very interesting insights. So Marie, please, the stage is yours.
Great. So I hope you can see my screen. Can you confirm?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let me showcase. So it's really 2 slides, so don't worry, it will not take a long time, but it's just that I really want everyone have in mind this story, what is the story of Omnichannel and what exactly we are speaking about. So it's just to set up the scene and to have the same understanding of the way in pharma we are thinking, speaking, briefing omnichannel strategies. So first of all, we have mainly sales reps, or we can call them how we want, CAMs, key account managers, or whatever we want, that basically are doing one job, which is to speak to the HCP or to speak to a pharmacist, or to speak to a client, let's say more generally, or maybe for the pharma that are really lucky, they can speak directly to their patient client, but this is really not the case of most of the company in the world, because there is a lot of regulation. So, and basically this sales rep, it was the only channel that the pharmaceutical company was having the past years, and he was trying to get data from the HCP, from their clients, and mainly how did he get this data is taking his notebook and writing in the notebook what exactly the HCP was thinking about the product, the disease, what their pain point, the pain point of the patient. And he was going through different meetings with his managers to explain to the manager what was exactly the real life of the HCP. And from those feedback, the manager was trying to build the correct marketing material to give to him for the next time he will see its HCP. So this was basically the role of the HCP, but one day something arrived in his life, which was the iPad. And by having an iPad, he was able to have what we called a digitalized face-to-face. And this digitalized face-to-face was a big mess for a long time. So this means that it begins just by having their e-detailing in a PDF mode inside the iPad, and they was just switching from a slide to another to explain this, and little by little those PDF became interactive, so there was navigation, there was flow, but it was really complex for them, because in the real life sales rep were going only on specific messages, because there was the pieces of messages that was making sense for the HCP. And he was trying to understand exactly what was the messages that the HCP wanted to hear, what content he was interested in, and what channel he was interested in. And by doing this, then he goes little by little through different new and way of interaction with him. So he tried approved email, and instead of mass mailing, because it was more personalized, and also there was a possibility to validate it from an MLR standpoint prior to send it to the HCP. So it was, let's say, regulation safe. So, and then they have understood that they should go for understanding more the real life of the client and maps this real life. So they began to create surveys, especially surveys into details and interactive way of using the iPad. This means that not only the sales were running the content inside the iPad, but there was also asking the HCP to touch the iPad and to have interaction with these iPads. And finally, thanks to this interaction and to the collection of the data from the HCP, we were able to begin to identify if one HCP was more or less at ease with one or the other key messages, and we were able to identify his motivation, his preference in terms of messaging. And thanks to this, for example, one of the key result of this analysis is that we have understood that finally, instead of going for product-oriented materials, we should go from scientific and medical material to initiate the conversation with the HCP. And then when we have this first pass with the HCP, we are able to go for product messages. But we cannot have those data, we cannot have this inside the machine, because the basics to make this available was the iPad, but also behind the iPad, there was the data collector. This is what we call the CRM, which is the place where instead of being the notebook of the sales reps begin to put inside the CRM what he or she was putting inside his notebook, to be able to make this data available and accessible to the rest of the company and make analysis from this. But to have this data and make this data the most consistency as possible and the more relevant, then we need to increase user interactions, because if there is no user interaction, there is no data. So, and if there is few data, the analysis that we are doing for from this few data make no sense, because it's just for a few HCPs and a few content. So then, to increase interaction, we have understood that content was king, and if we want this content to be, let's say, to be used and to be relevant, this content should answer a specific HCP needs, HCP requirement. And then with that, we were able to create interaction. And with this content, we could create interaction not only on the sales rep face-to-face interaction, but also on other channels. And here we begin the story of multi-channels. The problem is, by having multi-channels, the HCP was having, let's say, a lot of different messages that was always the same from all the different channels, and it was not orchestrated with no sense. So he was bothered by, like we are all bothered by a lot of communication we have into our mailing, too much information, kill information. So that's why we begin a story which was to train the sales rep to be the one that will push the button of the remote control and say, I really know my HCP, so I know when I have to put one content to the correct channel at which which moment, which time, to make sure that my HCP will have the best experience as possible. So this was enabled thanks to technology, thanks to digitalization of our way of working. And basically the main two the two main technology that are cloud-based that we know in the pharmaceutical industry are Salesforce and Viva CRM, which are the basics of this data collection. But we have also other services like a Sales App, and we have Viva Sunrise or other, or Viva App or Viva iRep or whatever the Viva. We have the CLM and approved email, but we have now also automation. We have the DAM, so now Viva is proposing Viva Bold Promomat, etc., which are pieces of services, an ecosystem of services that finally give just a part of what is requested to make this channel orchestration and increase interaction and collection of data. So from the pharmaceutical standpoint, this means that we need to have three different strategies: one for data, one for content, and one for channel. And content creation means creating the content, managing agency, going for more modular approach, solving MLR processes, a pain point, and having a DAM that is fully usable for this strategy. And as an example, us V7, we have one tool that is called eWizard, and that provide what we call today content authoring, the possibility to create the content inside the context for specific HCP, and that fit, and that is the center, and that is plugged to the whole ecosystem of IT things. So this is one of the results, and this is one of the C, which is content is king. But if content is king, context is queen. This means that if we don't understand the context of this content displaying, we are not be able to give to our sales rep, which is let's say the orchestrator, the good insight to increase the customer, which is our last C, the customer experience. So, and to be able to have this, understand this context, then we need to enable the data. And for that, we need to collect HCP feedback, to have Google Analytics internal basis, approved email setup, and detailing setup that allow us to collect all the information and dashboard this information into an understandable way to enable the sales to take the correct decision and make the best customer experience. So when we are speaking about 3 C's at heart, this means that yes, content is king, context is queen, and we do everything because of our HCP, our client is God. So those are the 3 C's, and this is the definition of the stories of the 3 C's. That means content, context, and customers. Here was my introduction. Now let's go for Q&A. I'm going back. I'm giving back to you the right to.
Yes, I already took time, so I hope you can see my screen.
Okay.
And let's kick off the conversation. It was a very interesting setting the stage presentation from your side, Marie. And my first question to you, and let's start with Rorik, is that obviously content is a key aspect of today's digital transformation, but how to align this component with customer and context? Rorik?
Thanks, Dario, and also thanks, Marie, for setting a really nice scene about the 3 C's. Just to go directly into the question, I think it's extremely important that we understand first our customer. I think there's a reason why, if we talk about the 3 C's, we put them into that right sequence. First, we need to understand our customer before we actually know what are their current behaviors and preferences. I think that is one, and that's still a challenge. in some of our cases. Secondly, is identifying what is the right content based on current behavior, current preferences, or current beliefs. Also, that is still a challenge, and I think we're throwing in a third challenge, and that's context. And context to me really is all about where and how and when will actually be the content displayed to this customer. So going back to the question, I think the biggest challenge is still having the right understanding of that customer, understanding their current beliefs and behaviors, and then lastly, really starting to look at the data that is available to be able to better contextualize that. The only thing I'd like to add and complement what Marie has been outlining very nicely before is it's still viewed and feels like a very web-driven model. I believe the future is almost web agnostic. I still believe the web will play an extremely important role, but I think if we really start to listen to our customers, understand which content they want to consume with us in order to remain relevant, and then lastly look at the context, I think we're going to see much more less face-to-face because of the different dynamics we're in now, but also if we simply look again at the first C, our customer, and the preferences that they have.
Thank you. Nuno?
Well, to be honest, I don't know what I can add now, but basically, no, we can spend hours talking about it, and you're totally right. So content is the king, context, we can call it the queen. I like the association that Marie developed, but the customer is the key player here. We need to understand who it is, what kind of interaction he wants to get from pharma content, but also understand what is the relationship, what is the feedback related to our content and the context that we are interacting with him. So it's not just pushing, it's not just talking. You need to interact, to listen to his feedback, to understand if we are going on the right direction. So the customer really plays the difference here. He's the person that we are trying to reach, pass the message in the right context. So when, how, and also the why we are reaching him. And we cannot forget to keep it, and we talked about this previously, about keep it simple. We cannot afford, or we cannot lose the customer, because in every kind of interaction we are doing in this digital environment, we decide to make it different, to make it complex, to make it funny or attractive. To be honest, we have here a call, 4 screens, simple talks, no avatars walking around, nothing special. And this brings us to a second topic, is the content. If the content is right, we can have the most simple thing, but the message is there.
Marie?
So I fully agree with both of you. So as I said, for me, customer is God. So if I don't understand God, what should I do? So yeah, it gives us the motivation and the wish and the why we want to deliver and we want to work. And if we don't have this in mind, and we are only thinking about money, then we are losing what is exactly our value on the market. So our value on the market is to provide services that is making the difference for our customer and making their life easier. And I really agree with you, Nuno, when you said we don't have to create, let's say, the biggest, the most animated content. We need to be simple and to reach exactly the pieces of need that our customer needs. And that's why we need to listen to them. And the best people to listen to them is the one that know him the best. Who is the one that know him the best? The sales rep, the one that having created this relationship for years and years, and that is continuing to continue this relation, whatever the place. And I agree with you, Rodrigue, when you say tomorrow we need to be, let's say, web agnostic or technology agnostic. This means that we should go back to what is the most important, the relation between one human and another human. If we can listen correctly, then we can answer correctly also. So just agree on everything you have said before. Thank you very much, guys.
Absolutely. If I can add, it's not B2B or B2C, it's page to page, right? Which means at the end of the day, it's always human to human. So very, very interesting. Let's move forward to the next question. Key challenges of the 3C and how to make them work. Let's start with NUNO this time. Nuno?
Okay, so regarding the customers, I already said that we need to know them, understand the needs, what they are really doing there. Let's be honest, we need to humanize our interaction. And who is working with analytics? For example, I'm imagining a group of sales reps using iPads connected to the CRM that are connecting all the data regarding the use of the e-detailing. And I can imagine a physician just stop in a screen about the safety of the product because he's answering a phone call, and the e-detailing is there for 5 minutes. So in terms of reporting, oh my God, the doctor is worried about the adverse event. That's not true. So we need to pay attention to these kind of small details, look to the big picture. It's not just looking to data, it's looking what that data can mean. So for the customer, is that he's keep in mind the needs, the willing, and innovate without creating noise. Maria was talking about these small details. We can always think about a dinner that we attended, a party of a friend that maybe the party was amazing, but if the food was terrible, oh my God, it's not the best approach. About the content is king, or God. God is the yes. God is the customer. Content is still the king. We need always to think about to be reliable, to be credible, and also we need to think about the information that we're giving. If we are offering a customer a certain content, do they recognize in our role, our farm, our product, our message? Do they recognize some kind of credible information? Do you understand that it's credible, or they think that the information, well, some pharma will not read it properly? Other thing is that during this context, many companies were trying to push the most interaction with customers, trying to send emails, webinars, and so on. You cannot afford to take the risk of having. I heard about the story of a pharma company that had 3 webinars at the same time from the same customers, and it was the same company. Okay, so why? Because they were working on silos, trying to reach the most of all these channels. And something that Mary mentioned on the slides was about orchestrating. We need to have a big picture of that. We cannot overlap and force. Sometimes I mention about content. For me, it will be terrible to say I don't like cinema. If I go like 10 times to the cinema to watch some kind of movie that I don't like it. It's not the cinema itself, was that type of movie. We cannot overload customers with webinars that has no sense at all, no content, because we'll get tired. They will love, and they are requesting for webinars, for example, for this kind of remote interaction, but they want it to be with meaning. Regarding the context, well, I just add something that we didn't talk about it. It is an elephant in the room, but we didn't mention it. Was that about this context of the current reality and our interaction with customers? We need to have a virus, a real virus, to change this digital mindset all over the world. So the context now is different. And I pass the ball to Dario.
Thank you, Nuno. Maria, let's move forward to you. And just one, let's say, word which is bothering me in personal, because we really get a very interesting from different angles, from different companies, solution vendors, etc. And I really don't hear too often the word authentic, which I think we definitely miss in this whole 3C aspect and content, right? So maybe just to enrich the conversation, but please, Marie, we would kindly appreciate your answer on that particular question.
Yeah, can you just repeat what word is missing on these three Cs? Sorry, I didn't
Well,
get.
maybe yeah, and the one A, maybe authentic, right? So this was just my personal opinion about this.
Authenticity.
Exactly.
Okay, great. So first of all, this one. So humanize, and I fully agree with you, NUNO. So and your question was, how do we make the 3C works well together? So I think, yes, humanizing is one of the most important things. We need to give sense at a human level, but we don't have to think only about external people and our client. We also need to think about internal people and what does make sense for them. So humanize, it's really a key. It's one of the key to be able to make those 3C works together. This leads me to another problem, which is process plus internal adoption. So here we are dealing with something which is really a big pain point inside a pharmaceutical company. So I could have a full webinar just on this matter, but let's speak just about MLR and IT. So we should have a smoothly way of validating our content to make the time to market easier. Even if we have to don't create too much content, we need to create the right content, the best content at a specific moment, because this is this moment that my HCP needs this content. So if it's take 2 months to validate this pieces of content, I will just lose the opportunity. So here, MLR is a real big enabler, and we need to help them finding the best processes, the smoothly processes, to help them understand also what is risk mitigation regarding regulation and content. So there is a bit of teaching, learning, education, but there is also a bit of helping them going through their processes and see where there are the inconsistencies, and just kill the complexity where we can go fast because of the machine, kill the machine that is making the process complex, and just go back to what is the reality. And sometimes humanize is the best way to kill complexity. So again, and this will help us to orchestrate better, because what is our main most important thing is to provide value, and this value can be orchestrated just by one person, which is the one that know the best the customer, and it is the sales or the CAM or the one that has the relationship with the guys. And if we don't provide to this guy the best tools in a simple way to use, and if we don't educate them to make sure that they will adopt the solution that we are providing to him, then we are not able to provide those 3 Cs. And here we are speaking about IT. Sometimes pharma deal with a really long, old technical debt that have been created by, sorry to tell that, but it is the truth, I'm speaking truth, so always on my life, by maybe big IT companies that are not, let's say, really looking for what is the most valuable things for the client, but what is the most valuable things for their growth. So they are creating those factories, those, let's say, gas factory, big complexity, because at the end it will give them money. So this is the technical depths, and today pharmaceutical companies should look at the depths and find a solution to make this simple and kill complexity here for a better use, and then have a solution that fit the exact need of our customer, but not external customer, our internal customer. And as we were telling that customer is a god, our internal customer is also a god. So it's our employees. Done.
Rodrigue?
Yeah, thanks, Dario. And I like these unscripted questions. I think it's triggering most out of all of us. So thinking about an additional C, I might have like 50 different C's. I was thinking about co-creation, which I think is extremely important with the field, with marketing and other functions. Change management is another one. But I think for me, the most important C would be culture. Because I'm pretty sure with all the attendees, A, on the panel, but B, also in the audience, they all agree on what we're saying, right? But how will we really make this happen? And to me, that really comes to culture. What's the type of culture that we can shape, that we can influence in our organizations or in our teams? And Nuno, to your earlier point, I do believe that COVID-19 is an accelerator. We now have senior leadership really asking us to reprioritize even what we're doing and making sure that this is a top priority for everybody. While at the same time, we're still catching up, I think, in a lot of companies and markets that I see inside, but also outside of the organization. So for me, it's really about culture. How can we make sure that we have the right mindset and that we are clear on why are we doing the things that we are doing and how are we doing them? And why are we moving away from our existing ways of working to something that is slightly different and might be unpleasant and uncomforting in the beginning? And I think that's really where we will be able to make the most significant change. And also the concern that I would have, COVID-19, let's make sure that we really keep the momentum as an industry, and that we drive the change in a sustainable way, not just doing the quick wins now, but really think about this in let's say longer run, but also from this let's say more culture angle, that we shape the right environment for our people, for our teams, to really live up to more customer-centric engagement. So great question, Dario.
Thank you very much. Definitely, I just need to add to that culture always eats anything for breakfast from strategy or anything. So this might be a very good added value to this conversation. Marie, let's move forward to the next question, and let's start this time with you, which is, are today's 3C different or same than just 6 months before, or before the whole situation and crisis started? So Marie?
Yeah, so this is a difficult question because we decided not to speak about COVID, but I definitely think that, let's say 10, 12 years ago, when I began my first transformation plan on digitalization and agilization of my first company, pharma company, Big 10, really big, with the biggest, let's say, the number one blockbuster of product in the world. So the one who knows about pipeline know who I am speaking about. So there was asking me a question. Is that the correct moment to digitalize our pharma company? It's not too late. Or maybe too early. So when it's the correct moment? And each year I was having the same question, and each year the answer was exactly the same. Yes, it's now. Yes, it's now. But it was now not for the fool. It was now for as Rorik said, change management culture. So it was depending on the maturity. And we have, I have, for the past 10 years, splitted all the company I was working in by teams. And those teams were having different level of maturity, level of understanding, level of needs. And when I was working globally, I was clustering. So if I have a 5C, I would say cluster. I was clustering some country that were sharing same culture. So culture of work, culture of regulation, culture, because it was easier to deploy and to implement big projects from global to local, what I call glocalization, from those countries that were having the same mindset and the same culture. So it was really about maturity. So yes, it was every time it was yes, Minushka, sorry, it was the time, and today it's also the time. So yes, the 3C have changed, or the, let's say, 5 Cs have changed from 6 months to today. They have definitely changed because the context is always changing. The customer is always changing. The content is always changing with the media that we have. But finally, human is not really changing. So it's just a question of how, is not a question, is not a question of why. So finally, we just have to adapt ourselves and again, go to what is the real need of the customer and try to adapt our system and our methodology to what is requested from the customer. This is my answer.
Thank you, Marie. You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah. Could you repeat the question one more time? But
are today's 3C different or same than just 6 months before?
Yeah, thanks. I think the last C, the context has dramatically changed. I think that is a given, and I agree with Marie's point around we would not bring up COVID-19 too often, but I think that is definitely the biggest changer of our context. Our customer is not changing, also not the way, hopefully, how we will be relevant to them, right? But it's definitely the context that is changing. And just to reinforce what I said before, and I think also NUNO said that before very nicely, it's like a perfect momentum that we're having right now to really relook at that context, because I think we've been off before to be really contextualizing what we delivered to our physicians in the past. So for me, it's really the last C. It's the context that dramatically changed.
Thank you, Rorik. Nuno? You're on mute.
We are here in a competition on finding C words. Okay, we have the COVID as a C, but the culture is amazing and the cooperation also. But I will go back to the cooperation later. What have changed? Well, the customer is more demanding. He has less time, and if he's feeling a little bit more, how should I say, you don't have these face-to-face calls with Salesforce, but he's being connected every single time by phone, by video calls, and so on. So he has less time, and he's also more demanding because these moments that he has, you want to know more very shortly, and a little bit sometimes cut the small talk and go straight to the point. The content, well, the content, we have new content, let's be honest, everything is changing. We have new content related to the situation right now, the pandemic, but it's more about new channels. It's more about picking up that content and adapt it to the new reality, to new channels for interaction. And the context, of course. I cannot add more than Marie and Rorik regarding the context, everything is changed. But regarding cooperation, I think the cooperation inside the companies changed a lot and need to be really adapted, because we need to cooperate all the departments. It can be different brand teams, can be different roles, different divisions, can be regulatory, compliance, business, and digital on sites. Digital or multi-channel, omni-channel, whatever you want to know to call it, is more about omni-channel, of course. It is an aggregator of all different activities across the company. It is an enabler of a digital strategy at affiliate, at country level, at company level, as a strategy, a direction to follow. And then all the different areas should work in the customer. Now I have another C word, the centricity. Okay, so working in the customer centricity approach, having the best content for the customer in the right way with the appropriate channel.
Thank you, Nuno. In the meantime, we received a very interesting audience question, which is, what are your recommendations for a company which has to implement both a CRM and an omni-channel solution or program? Well, if you ask me, isn't it the same?
Both, this means the full line.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so maybe I can give some advice here. Okay, So first of all, you need to understand what is exactly what you want to provide as an impact on the web, on your audience and on your customer, and then go to sizel what regarding your impact, what your effort, the effort you can put. And in regard of this gap analysis, you will definitely see what is the best solution on the market. You have solutions that can be one-fit-all solutions, so a full solution from the CRM to the CLM, which is one pack and delivering services, etc., etc., like for example us. And you have also some other solution that would say, okay, we need a really strong, organized, data-centric a CRM, like, because we have a big ERP, we need to match the ERP with the CRM. So then we need to split them, and we need to have one CRP, and then after that, all the omnichannel facilities. Then you will have to choose between ERP data-centric organization or a CRM-centric organization. And this will depend on how your sales are working. Are there already relationship mature? Are they already putting a lot of data of your customer? If yes, then CRM-centric data system is the best. If not, maybe ERP-centric system is the best, because your CRM will just make the link in between the ERP and the different, let's say, place you are going to publish your content. Regarding pricing, I think today there are solutions that can have a big impact at a low cost, but without, let's say, pieces of services that can bring you all this level of cooperation, clusterization, collaboration, change management, etc., that can need a company. Where companies that are bigger and that are, let's say, a little bit more expensive, is that they are going to provide a lot more of expertise and services behind that will help you not only build the factory itself, CRM, CLM, plus the different channel, plus also data lake, and looking at your ERP to make it available to plug in, but that will go also for the people and see what are the people, the processes, and the tool that you are using, and make this all together work together in a simple way. So here you are going to go with big agency, big CRMs, big facilitators, etc., etc. And in brackets, we are doing also this. So we are technology agnostic, so we can do both. But when it's a big company that have already his own data organization, we usually recommend to go for a smooth integration. And when it's a new company that have everything to build from scratch, then we usually recommend to go for a turnkey solution. I hope I have understood the question and answered the question.
Absolutely. Thank you, Marie. Rory, would you like to add something?
Yeah, it's a pity we can't ask a substantial follow-up question, right, on this question. But I think what the most important thing is what Marie said is what is it actually that you're trying to achieve? I think that's the most important part. At the end of the day, CRM is almost like a commodity, right?
Sorry.
That will not be your key differentiator. It's really about how you'll actually utilize it to start engaging your customers. One very practical suggestion, if you already have an existing CRM platform or any integration with your CRM, ERP or a platform, often there's a lot of data already available, but simply not being utilized. So really think about a stepwise approach to fully utilize what you have in place before you start to bring in your vendors, go to your pitches, and a very lengthy RFP process. Because again, technology will not be the game changer for your organization.
Good point. NUNO?
I will pick it up on that, Eric. Totally right. If you have a Ferrari, no, better, let's call it, if you have a small car and you want to buy a Ferrari, why you want it? Are you really using the right speed of the full speed of your car? One thing that we need to think is that if you have a CRM to capture your customer needs, if you have the channels ready to interact with them, you need to have someone to orchestrate it, someone to manage. You can have the best technology that you want, that it can have, or you can buy in the market, but you need to have someone to use it properly. So we need to, it's not just about technology, it's about designing a omnichannel strategy. Then to have someone to lead the implementation of this, a team to really implement it and make it a real, the strategic approach and also the tactical approach to ensure it. Because you can have the best technology in the world, but if you have nobody to use it, will not go far. And the culture himself. We mentioned here, Marie and Rorik, also about the let's call the digital transformation, the change, the change management, the different approach, the way we're looking to the interaction. Marie, I'll be honest, I didn't read it. I was not looking to the post-its on the wall. I'll be honest. But the digital transformation is a must. Only with that you can really create something. Otherwise, you are not really deploying a value. And go for an MVP. Go small.
Yeah.
Make it simple, but not simpler. At least you can create a digital strategy without any connection to the CRM. You can do it. Let's be honest. You can do it.
We did it
if you need it, but then you have no data at all.
Yeah.
So, but you can go step by step.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Just one thing to add. I think make it indeed go step by step and make it as tangible as possible. Make sure you really share that it's working. If it's working in Germany, it's working maybe in Austria as well. We need to really be demonstrating and bringing forward that it's working. It's being valued by our customers. Our reps or our marketeers are able to actually deliver on their customer needs, and that I think needs consistent reinforcement.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Change management, communication campaign, valuable the success story. As you said, minimum, I would say minimum desirable product, not minimum viable, but minimum desirable, because sometimes for adoption, you know, you need just one feature more. But yes, I fully agree. And pieces by pieces, and we were speaking about the 5 C's, but there are also the 5 P's. People, processes, pieces, pattern, and places. And the pieces, we can break down the pieces. We as you said, NUNO, we don't have to create all in one. We should see what we need and go incremental and not deliver for the whole world as a top down, but cluster and go where there is the most sense and the most value, create success story, capitalize on success story, and then deploy little by little when the need is here. I fully agree. I'm really happy to participate to this webinar with you guys.
Dario will create a new webinar called the 5 or 10 P's.
10 P's.
Next time will be 4C, after that 5C, after the 6C, and we will go to 20. So
I have the 5I if you want also. Initiate, ideate, incubate, industrialize, and inspect. So I have a lot of like that. You can ask me.
Innovate.
Yeah, it's ideate or innovate. It's like that. Yeah.
Okay. Last question. We are running a little out of time. We are having 10 minutes left, and we will speak about the new normal, right? But let's speak about the next normal, or the next big thing or things in content and modularity. And let's start with you, Rorik. What do you think is the next big thing when we speak about content and modularity?
So I don't necessarily think it's the next big thing. I think it's an evolution of what many of us are currently already working on. It is about how can we make content available in a modular fashion. And I think we've all been talking about it and partly doing that. But again, I think this will be further accelerated, because what we're seeing is that if we really want to focus on the last C, that context, we need to be channel agnostic. We need to be able to get the content where our customers actually need it. So at least what I believe is of fundamental importance there is that we have that channel agnostic content that you can easily bring into the channel that you need. And of course, there are challenges from an MLR perspective. There are some challenges on how to actually do that in an efficient manner. But the pilots that I've seen, that I've been involved with, are extremely supportive and extremely meaningful so far. I think what's really important, if you start looking at that modular content, think about C that I mentioned before, is the co-creation element. So if you think about, or if you work in a global to local model or in a regional to a local model, how can regional or global brand teams better understand our markets, almost our internal customer needs, once we start creating that content? So I think once we are doing a better job in delivering those better fit for purpose campaigns, and start thinking about how we can bring them in a channel agnostic manner, I think we as an industry made a very big step forward.
Thank you. Marie?
Yeah, I fully agree with Rorik. This is not something that is new. This is something that happened naturally. And when V7 and eWizard began to plug into the different channel, one of our problem was that we have to redo for each channel. And it was, let's say, not good, neither for the client, neither for us. It was a loss of time, a loss of money, a lot of everything. So when the idea of modular pop-ups in our mind, it was the idea that we can create once, publish everywhere, which is our COPE approach, and also take from everywhere. So take the feedback, because we want to close the loop, closed loop marketing. We want to close the loop and have the feedback to increase our knowledge of our clients. So, and the only way of doing that, I'm sorry, the only way of doing that was for us the fact that we should be technology agnostic. So we should be able to take from everywhere, from whatever the technology, from InDesign, from PPT, from PDF, from HTML, put this on the machine, whatever, and then publish everywhere, whatever the places. It is a CRM, it is a CLM, it is let's say an email, whatever, in whatever the technology, because you have to know that today's in the context of big IT, a lot of companies are trying to create complex system to be owner of the system and to maintain the client. So the idea, our idea was to be able to create modular approach. We should be technology agnostic and universal. So that's why we have created this modular approach, and we definitely think this is the future of the way we are going to publish. And the idea here is just, let's say, create the standards. This means that, and the standards is always based on what does my customer needs and where does my customer need to have his content and his pieces of content. But again, this will not solve the problem of orchestration. This will just solve the problem of putting the correct content in the correct place, but not at the correct moment for the correct person. So we still need orchestration, and this is people, this is a change management, this is learning, and this is making our people operate correctly omnichannel.
Thank you. Nuno?
Well, what I see, what is coming, the changes and opportunities. I see here that in the next months, the next years, we will have more cooperation across different roles in the companies, not just to interact with the customers, but also to produce the content himself. I'm feeling that. So basically, in my company, I feel that the people, the infield teams, the sales teams, medical teams, they are really engaged in digital. And this changed completely the way that we are interacting, the way that we are creating content, and where we are delivering valuable messages to the customers. So that is co-creation across the company. Other thing is regarding to innovation and time. One thing that I've learned in all the years that I've been here working in this area is that you should lose time or invest time. I will invest time to create new things, to innovate, to create something that is not ready for that moment in time, but in 1, 2, 3, 5 years, we're ready. I remember 10 years ago to be talking about the end of the detailing as we were thinking about it, before the iPads even. When the iPads arrived, we were talking about all creation of, native apps and HTML5, whatever. And I was saying, forget about it. Everything will be online. Oh, but there is no internet in the hospitals. Forget it. It will be there. So, and these changed completely. So the agnostic platform, agnostic channels, the content should be displayed independently of the tool, of the channel that they're using. And this, I see that this is the biggest challenge that is coming, is really to have this kind of omni approach to the interaction with the customer.
Thank you, Nuno. And last question, which I selected from the audience, which is how to drive this type of change in marketing and sales teams. Well, if I may answer, I would answer with a C, and this is culture. But please, the stage is yours. Who would like to answer on his behalf?
I can take a first crack at that. Just 1 minute, and then we all have 1 minute left. So for me, it's all about, first of all, I think there are 4 important stages when you start thinking about driving that sort of change in your organizations. First of all, making sure that your teams, your leadership team sets the right direction. A very clear vision, strategic priorities, operating model, supporting that direction. Second part is about making sure that the organization is aware about the change. Why are we changing? Clear and compelling change story in and for your organization. The third one to me is around making sure that our teams, our people can actually execute. So making sure that we have the right capabilities in place, we have supporting and efficient and simple processes, and really have a change management approach supporting that. And then the last thing, and I think we talked about that before, is really making sure that we are executing and sharing that back to our teams. So I think if we can really bring those elements together, and it's very hard, then that's how you'll make that change.
Thank you, Rodrigue.
I will add only 15 seconds, because what he said was amazing. That I subscribe everything. I just add something that is reallocate the budget, because if you think about the strategic approach of a brand in the market, they allocate a percentage to digital. But okay, let's increase it 10 times more, and let's shift the budget from the brand to the digital transformation team, and I'm sure that will change the thing.
It's a way to drive change for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a way, it's a facilitator, it's an accelerator, I'm sure. So it was 12% of the budget 10 years ago in the most mature companies. Now I don't know. I would be happy to know about Roche and the others, but well, what I would say is just keep in mind that if we want to make our marketers change, we need to look at what they are doing on their daily basis. What are their objectives, their KPIs, their position, their description of job. And if we look the reality today, what we see is that our brand manager are supposed to deliver a strategy with some KPIs, and they are not supposed to create material. They are supposed to, let's say, how do we say that in English? I'm sorry, I'm losing my English. Dépenser, spend money. They are asked to spend money. They have a budget. They should spend the money on the budget, and then they are requesting to agency, to provider, and they are program or project managers. We are not asking them to think out of that. So the first place for me, if we want the company to change, is to understand the role and the responsibility of each of the components of this omni-channel chain, And for each of the pieces, the people, we need to redefine their role and responsibility and adapt the full chain and the KPIs and the money, for example, to this chain and to what we want to deliver. And this can come only from the top. So it is something that has to be understood by the top manager. And when top manager understand this and review the strategy and review the way they are organizing their capabilities and the capacity, then we can go for a bottom-up approach that Rorik was explaining. This means that learning by doing and doing by showing and increasing adoption by sharing the good success, etc., etc. But we really need to understand who are the people we have inside and why they are acting like this. Sometimes there are some fears, some problem. For example, in MLR, I will give a simple example for France. The head of MLR is legally responsible of each of the problem of the promotional material. So if there is a promotional material that is wrong, he can go to the prison as a person. So how do you want the head of the regulatory say yes to take risk if he can personally go into prison because he made a mistake? So we have to have this in mind. What are doing our employees exactly, and what are they requested to do?
Thank you, Marie. With that thought, I would like to finish and close today's webinar. Hopefully it was very interesting. We will also publish it on our official YouTube channel as well. So once again, thank you very much, Marie, Rorik, and NUNO. It was a great pleasure, and definitely we should make a sequel C webinar in the upcoming months, right? Well, take care and stay positive.
Thanks, Dario. Thanks for facilitating.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.